The Scales of Justice. Stories from the Bench. The atmosphere in the courtroom was heavy with the weight of expectation and the silent tension that always precedes a final judgment. Behind the elevated mahogany bench sat a woman whose presence commanded immediate respect. Her nameplate, gleaming under the bright lights of the Hall of Justice, bore the name Judge Ebony K. Williams. She looked out at the individuals gathered before her, her gaze steady and discerning. To those standing in her presence, she made one thing abundantly clear from the very beginning. She asked if they could read the nameplate. She reminded them that the only thing that matters in this particular courtroom is how she sees. Her perspective was forged in a unique fire coming from North Carolina by way of Louisiana, seasoned with a touch of West Coast cool and sharpened by a New York edge. When she looked at a woman standing before her, she asked if there was a problem. The woman replied that she had no problem. To the judge, equal justice was not just a phrase but was all about the most important values of the country, which are freedom and integrity. Those were the very things she was striving for every single day. She understood the dynamics of power and responsibility, telling one woman that while she runs her own household, a man gets to run his. The judge had decided to become an attorney and pursue the law because she wanted to be a voice for the voiceless. She knew that this court cannot hold a person accountable without clear cause, and her mission involved people from all sectors of life, whether they were black, white, purple, gay, straight, or queer. That was the essence of what equal justice with Judge Ebony K. Williams was all about. The first matter of the day involved a dispute that had turned a milestone celebration into a legal battle. Lillian Winward, a woman who followed a strict vegan lifestyle, claimed her 50th birthday party was a total bust. The reason for the failure, according to her, was that a guest had broken her rules by cooking meat inside the house she had rented. On the other side stood Benson Sanchez, who argued that he had enjoyed his lobsters on the patio and saw no reason for anyone to pitch a fit. The judge identified Lillian Winward as the plaintiff and Benson Sanchez as the defendant. Mr. Sanchez had brought a witness, Ms. Raina Kumar, who had already been sworn in by the bailiff, Elijah. The judge turned her attention to Ms. Winward to understand why they were in court. Ms. Winward explained that she was suing Benson Sanchez for negligence in the amount of $850. She described the experience as traumatizing, especially since it was supposed to be a celebration of her birthday. She alleged that he cooked meat even though he knew she was a vegan and had agreed not to do so in the cottage. When the judge asked about her rationale for the vegan lifestyle, Ms. Winward shared a childhood memory from an Easter celebration. Her family had a background of cooking game, and they had served rabbit. It turned out to be a pet rabbit, and she had never been the same since that day. The judge acknowledged that this was an important emotional connection. For Ms. Winward, being vegan was not just dietary, but was about not wanting to see animals harmed for human consumption. While the judge admitted she was a red meat girl herself, she expressed respect for Ms. Winward's lifestyle choice. The connection between the parties was established through Ms. Kumar, who was a dear college friend of Ms. Winward and had been dating Mr. Sanchez for a few months. Ms. Winward admitted she did not really care for Benson from the minute she met him. Despite this, he was invited to the 50th birthday celebration, a big deal that involved a 6-bedroom cottage in Rockland, Maine. Ms. Winward had done extensive research to find this idyllic location for 12 people. To ensure her comfort, she had sent a group text stating that while she would organize the arrangements, everyone had to agree not to cook or bring meat into the house. She presented the text messages as evidence. The text showed her saying that as far as they knew, she was still vegan, and while they could eat meat outside on the patio, they were not to bring it into the cottage. Mr. Sanchez had entered the chat and replied that he ate meat for every meal, but said the words, "but okay." In the courtroom, Mr. Sanchez argued that Ms. Winward was being controlling and uptight from the get-go. Ms. Kumar testified that while they tried to accommodate their friend, everyone else preferred to eat meat. As the case of Lillian Winward and Benson Sanchez continued, the judge examined photo evidence of the lobsters. Ms. Winward was visibly distressed by the sight of the animals, stating she does not eat things with a face. Mr. Sanchez had boiled the lobsters inside the cottage. When asked why he did not do it outside as directed, he argued that he did not consider lobster to be meat and that he needed hot water and a stove to boil them properly. He claimed there was no hot plate available. A second text message exchange revealed the aftermath of the incident. Ms. Winward had told Benson she was furious and that his selfish behavior had ruined her birthday. She demanded he pay his share of the cottage expense because she felt she had to vacate the premises. Mr. Sanchez had responded by saying she was out of her mind and that he and Reina had already paid their share like the other 4 couples. Ms. Winward confirmed she stayed only one night of the 2-night stay. While the first night was wonderful and included a vegan meal she prepared, the second night was ruined for her by the lobster incident. Ms. Kumar admitted they did not enjoy the vegan meal, despite Ms. Winward slaving over it for 4 hours. The judge reviewed the invoice showing a total cost of $5,100, which meant each couple paid $850. In her final analysis, the judge noted that Mr. Sanchez had indeed acquiesced to the rules when he said the words "but okay" in the text message. By consenting to go to the party under those specific terms, he was bound by them, no matter how rigid they seemed. The judge concluded that he had ruined the second night of the celebration. However, since Ms. Winward had enjoyed the first night, the court ruled in her favor for exactly half of the amount she requested. The judge granted her $425. While Ms. Winward saw it as a victory, Mr. Sanchez and Ms. Kumar were less than pleased, declaring the friendship over as they left the courtroom. The next case brought before Judge Ebony K. Williams involved Marcus Stevens and Sarah Goldfield. Mr. Stevens claimed his vintage camera, a precious heirloom from his father, was broken during a barbecue at Ms. Goldfield's property. He explained that he lived with his mother in the same neighborhood and had gone to the party at her suggestion. While trying to get his son, Jack, to FaceTime with his mother, Mr. Stevens had stepped away from the noise and sat on a swing in the front yard. The swing broke, sending him and his camera to the ground. He presented a repair bill for $388. Ms. Goldfield defended herself by stating that she had clearly told the entire party that no adults were allowed on that swing. She argued that the swing was for children and that Mr. Stevens was being negligent by sitting on it with his child. She also mentioned that the swing was technically on city property, though she permitted neighborhood kids to use it. Judge Williams looked at the photo of the small swing and then at Mr. Stevens. She observed that anyone looking at the tiny, baby-sized swing should have known a grown man did not belong in it. She suggested that while Ms. Goldfield could have used a sign to indicate the hazard, the primary responsibility lay with the person using the equipment. The judge emphasized that when someone carries an item of great value and significance like a vintage camera, they must exercise extreme caution. She found that the court was not convinced Ms. Goldfield was responsible for the damages. Therefore, the judge dismissed the case. Ms. Goldfield felt the ruling was correct and hoped Mr. Stevens would be more careful in the future, while Mr. Stevens remained disappointed, believing he had simply been looking for a place to sit. Through these cases, Judge Ebony K. Williams continued to uphold the values of integrity and accountability, proving that in her courtroom, the details of how she sees the truth are what define the path to justice.